Today we're going to look at the epic poem, and more specifically, the epic hero in the poem. So what is an epic? An epic is a long narrative poem that relates the great deeds of a larger-than-life hero who embodies the values of a particular society. Now, epics often concern eternal human problems, such as the conflict between good and evil. They're also written or told on a grand scale and often in ceremonial style. So there are two types of epics. First of all, there is the folk epic. That would be the oral compositions passed on from storyteller to storyteller, and this changes over time. Now, these are some of the more famous that you've heard of: the Gilgamesh, Beowulf, Iliad, Homer's The Odyssey. These are compositions that were told orally from storyteller to storyteller in front of a large audience. Most of your audience members would have been illiterate. They couldn't have read such a thing, so somebody has to perform these folk epics. But we do also have later on a literary epic. Now, these are written compositions, and because they're written, they are unchanged over time. For example, you might have the Aeneid and Paradise Lost. But regardless if it's a folk or a literary epic, there are going to be 5 main characteristics of your epic. Number 1, the hero is going to be a great leader. They're identified strongly with a particular people or a society. This individual hero is going to be front and center in your epic. The next is the setting. Now, the setting is broad and often includes supernatural realms. Especially, you're going to hear about the land of the dead. Your hero has got to go on some sort of journey, whether it is a specific quest or whether they are taking a journey around and meeting up with different types of realms. And a lot of times, this is going to involve supernatural beings such as gods and goddesses, or us traveling to the land of the dead. Next, your epic characteristic: the hero does great deeds in battle, or they're going to undertake an extraordinary journey or quest. Your hero has to get some reliance upon fame. They have to do some great deed that's above and beyond what we ordinary citizens can do. So they're going to undertake some sort of extraordinary journey, or they're going to do some great deed in battle, or they're off questing for some sort of god or some sort of country in order to finish a quest. Our fourth characteristic: sometimes gods or other supernatural or fantastic beings actually take part in the action. Sometimes the gods are helpful. They want to help out your epic hero. Sometimes they do not like what your epic hero is doing, or the epic hero has actually forcibly come against that god or goddess, and so they're going to actively take part in the epic. And our fifth characteristic: the story is usually told in a heightened language, especially your non-written ones, your folk epics. The storytellers wanted to perform, and so a lot of times the language is going to be heightened. A lot of times you're going to hear quite a bit of rhythm or a lot of repetition, a lot of description, because as the storytellers are trying to memorize these long poems, that's going to help quite a bit. They also want to make sure, as they are giving their grand epics, that the description is their own description, so they might, after storyteller to storyteller, change a lot of the descriptions. Now, we have other characteristics we might find in certain epics. For example, you might have epic conventions, and these are shared characteristics of epics that writers draw upon to establish the epic quality of their poems, so they're just not poems themselves, they can be considered epics. So epic convention number 1, you need an invocation or a formal plea to aid or to help you with this epic. Epic poems, whether they're written or folk, they're long. So this plea is usually to some sort of deity or some other spiritual power, an invocation to the muse: please help me get this story through correctly. Epic convention number 2, you have to have an action beginning almost immediately. You have to bring the reader or the listener in almost immediately to your story. Now that means your action is in media res. And that means literally you're in the middle of things. Say, for example, in the Odyssey, we start off with King Alcinous listening to Odysseus after he's come through all of his journeys already. And a lot of book 1 in the Odyssey is a flashback to all the different adventures that Odysseus has gone through. Same thing with Gilgamesh, as we're conquesting out to go find cedar, and we're also going to go off and fight and do battle. There's all these in medias res movements. We're automatically into a quest. We're automatically about to do battle. Epic convention number 3. The epic begins in media res, but then flashes back to events that took place before the narrator's current time. Again, when we have Homer's Iliad and the Odyssey, this is a classic convention where we flash backwards. Even in the written epics with John Milton and his Paradise Lost, we have an immediate flashback to give us more of the events that took place. Like we're trying to tell a story within a story. We're telling the story of Odysseus, and Odysseus is telling his own story. Now, epic convention number 4, you're going to have similes, also known as sometimes the Homeric simile. And that's an elaborately extended comparison relating historic events to simple everyday events using like, as, so, and just as. So just as you know a simile's got to use the words like and as, they use the same thing in epic convention. You're going to be drawing comparisons using the words like or as. Epic convention number 5, you're also going to see a lot of epithets. Now, an epithet is a descriptive phrase that presents a particular trait of a person or a thing. This can be a quick aid to characterization. When you talk about Odysseus, he is a raider of cities. Odysseus is also a man skilled in all ways of contending. So this trait, you're stereotyping this particular character as being an all or nothing person. Odysseus can raid any city he wants. He's a man skilled in all ways. Next, we'll talk about the epic hero themselves. What are the characteristics of an epic hero? Well, they have to be that larger-than-life person. They have to embody the highest ideals of their culture. Otherwise, they're not going to be that interesting to listen to in such a long poem. For example, in Gilgamesh, the epic hero Gilgamesh is considered larger than life. He's going to embody such classic characteristics as loyalty, as valor and courage. He has a sense of justice, being a king who's helping out his community. He has a sense of dignity as he does worship the gods well. And he has this sense of persistence and many other traits of his culture and time period. Now, the epic hero should undertake a quest or a journey to achieve something of great value to themselves or society. You have to have a plot line. Your epic hero just can't sit there and discuss all of his past journeys. He's got to have something more to do. So usually your epic heroes are going to live on after death, meaning they're forever remembered by those who live after them and achieve a type of immortality. Now, whether this actually is in the story where they're traveling to the land of the dead to find an afterlife or immortality like Gilgamesh does, or maybe perhaps as we look at Odysseus trying to take back his home in Ithaca and reestablish his family so his son Telemachus can now become king. There's this sense of being able to live on even after yourself. Even though they're an epic hero and they have to be some sort of larger-than-life hero, they're not a Superman. They're supposed to be more like you or I as a regular human. Now, they could be part God, but they could also be part human whose aspirations and accomplishments that set them apart from other regular humans. Now, this person must overcome great obstacles or opponents, but they have to maintain their humanity. There will be some flaws in your epic hero. Now, an epic hero experiences typical human emotions and feelings. They are still human like the rest of us. However, they're able to master and control these human traits to a greater degree than a typical person. You will notice other members of the club that they're in as they're traveling from quest to quest. A lot of those other humans cannot control their emotions or feelings. Odysseus has to cover his men's ears in beeswax, but he still wants to hear the sirens' song themselves. He feels if he just ties himself to the mast of the ship, he'll be able to withstand the songs of the sirens, but he knows that his other humans on the ship cannot. Now, it's often necessary for the epic hero to connect or make contact with lesser humans in order to succeed. Say, for example, as we are in quest number 1 with Gilgamesh, looking for trees or cedar, we have to travel to the north. And so we are going to be meeting with other communities in order to try and better our civilization. Same thing with Odysseus. He's traveling from island to island in order to get back home. And he's making contact with the Cyclops. He's making contact with the Lotus Eaters in order to try and figure out how to get home and how to get past these particular quests in order to continue their journey. Now, when we look at the hero's journey archetype, we have them all the way back to Gilgamesh and Homer's The Odyssey and Iliad, all the way up to our movies today. So what do Star Wars, Harry Potter, Gilgamesh, and Homer's The Odyssey all have in common? They all have heroes that partake in a journey of significant change, and that is the hero's journey. Now, all stories have heroes that are truly profound for exploring the archetype of the hero in literature, and therefore we can explore it in our own lives. Thank you so much for stopping by to learn about epics and about epic heroes. If you'd like to learn more specifically about the epic heroes of Gilgamesh or about the Odysseus, please check out my channel. I have several videos on both of these epics. Or if you'd like to learn more about a specific epic or quest, please leave a comment down below. Let me know which epics you'd like to hear about. And as always, I'd appreciate it if you subscribed.